What's up everyone, I'm Twisted. Last month I uploaded a video where I discussed the possibility of new champions coming to Legends of Runeterra alongside the release of the second season of Arcane. And now we just got confirmation that 4 brand new champions will be added to the game and that all of them will be exclusive to Path of Champions. If the second season of Arcane doesn't introduce new champions, then that means that at least one of the new LOR champions might not be related to the show, which might be why one of them is being released next month. With that in mind, in this video I want to discuss the possibility of Fiddlesticks coming to the game, or at least discuss how it might have been planned to be released at some point before the layoffs and shift to PvE. The last PvP set for Legends of Runeterra was released in April of this year, and with it came a lot of speculation surrounding Fiddlesticks, and that was when I wrote most of this script, so please do keep that in mind and consider everything I say here with a huge grain of salt. Fiddlesticks is one of the 10 primordial demons of Runeterra. Demons are spirits that are driven by negative thoughts and feelings. The more specific the feeling, the weaker they are. The more general the feeling, the stronger they are. So, a demon who's driven by fear is much stronger than one that is driven by self-doubt. The weaker proto-demons are called Azakana. At the top of the food chain are the 10 primordial demons, from which we only know Fiddlesticks, Ashlash, and the third one I'll mention later. Recently, Viego's ruination seems to have woken some of them up, including Fiddlesticks, who now roams the hinterlands of Demacia. Fiddlesticks has no real form, no organs, brains, vocal cords, no thoughts, or understanding of the world. It has no words of its own. Instead, it mimics things that it has heard, things that were spoken by its victims. Its current form has grabbed junk from the hinterlands and disguised itself as what we see now. Now, let's jump from a spooky scarecrow to a fey fawn and talk about Lillia. In Ionia, there used to be this magical tree called God Willow. When Ivern the Cruel struck down the tree, one of its seeds fell onto the Garden of Forgetting. There, the Dreaming Tree, as it's now called, spiraled up, spreading the magic of humanity's desires each time its dream-laden buds bloomed. Lillia came to be when one of the tree's own dreams was captured in a bud and fell to the ground before it could bloom. There's more to Lillia than this, but what you need to know for now is that these drops that come out of the buds are connected to people's dreams and can act as basically windows to those dreams. In the garden, there are also these sprites who can enter dreams, changing their form to help guide the dreamer toward their wishes. Speaking of which, in this expansion we get to see Lux's dream. I'm sure you're familiar with Lux. She's a mage from Demacia, a nation that hates magic and segregates mages. Lux had to hide away the fact that she's a mage all of her life, while living in fear of what might happen if people knew what she was. In her dreams, we see her ideal version of Demacia, one where magic is accepted and she's seen as a hero. Now that you have all of this context, let's dive deeper into why I think Fiddlesticks might be joining LOR, or at least was planned to at some point. In Lillia's cards, we found out that there's something bad happening to the dreams.
Aisha, the garden is greener every day.
But I needed to tell you, I can't remember.
Mother Tree's leaves rustle and whisper.
To me as well, something is not right.
The flavor of Lillia's level 1 and level 2 cards tells us the following. At the heart of the Garden of Forgetting, the dewdrop harvest grows near. Though these dewdrops are lovingly tended by Lillia and the garden's other caretakers, a strange corruption can now be seen within them, and the dreams they show turning haunted and dark, as if a twisted corruption had taken root within them, threatening to leave dreamers stranded in their own dangerous nightmares. And if we look at Lily's level 2 artwork, she seems to be fighting against something, though the only thing we see are black birds flying around her. Is she fighting the birds themselves?
All of the garden is in bloom.
But black feathers blight the soil.
In Lux's description from Path of Champions, we learn that a strange corruption has taken hold of the Demacia of her dreams, and that now she has to journey deep into the heart of her own nightmare. We see this happening in the Patricide Hall. The artwork shows twisted statues of Lux's aunt and father, as well as grotesque bodies with hands reaching toward the light as well as toward Lux. Giving her lore, the name of the card, as well as its in-game effects, it's safe to say that Lux's nightmare is heavily tied to the persecution of mages in Demacia. The hands likely referencing all the victims of the Mageseekers who were locked away. If you look closely, you may also notice some dark birds in the artwork. Remember what I said about sprites, how they can enter dreams to guide the dreamers? Well, we see that with Luminous Sprite, but also with Dreamlit Alina. The first turned into a light source for Lux, while the other turned into a young mage, probably not too far from what Lux looked like in her youth. We see Lux teaching and guiding Alina, something no one did for her when she was younger. Again, this is Lux's dream, and this is likely a manifestation of her wish to have someone like that in her life when she was younger, but also to do the same for other young mages right now. Amongst Lux's cards, there's also the Aberrant Mageseeker. At first, you might think this is a manifestation of the fear of the Mageseeker order she must have felt, which might be the case, but then you hear quotes like this.
Magic must be fostered, each mage a gift. Magic is our strength. Defend Demacia's magic!
This might instead be how Lux envisions the Mageseekers in her perfect version of Demacia, as an order that actually protects Demacia using magic. But there's more to this particular Mageseeker than that. Lady Crownguard, why don't you follow me, says its flavor. This suspicious Mageseeker is trying to lead Lux into the darkness. Notice how his voice shifts to a more twisted version.
Come with me, little mage. Lady Crownguard, the dark awaits.
When confronted with Alina, the Mageseeker is aware that she's a sprite.
The sprite child, the light searing. Meager, just a spark. Little light, big dark.
And when he sees the other sprites, he says,
Darkness consumes. Scatter the light. Feast. The shadows grow.
And notice this interaction with Charo Lightfeather.
I am not assured that you are a mage seeker at all.
Yeah, the skin itches.
This skin, it seems that whatever this entity is, it has corrupted the Mageseeker from Lux's dreams, which may or not have been a sprite as well, and taken its form as its own. Also notice the red lights shining from its crest and headpiece, a contrast to the blue we see in the Inquisitor, for example. Definitely out of place in Demacia. The Luminous Sprite's artwork is very reminiscent of the artwork of Fiddlesticks' Scarecrow effigy trinket in League, and the Mageseeker also has a quote mentioning a lantern.
A lantern crushed, a light snuffed out.
In early versions of his artwork, we can see that the Luminous Sprite was actually supposed to be seen struggling next to him. There's also this particular quote.
She sees it. She knows.
It? Is he referring to his own disguise, or perhaps to another entity?
Firefly between its palms. It could swallow them whole.
These ones really feel like the Mageseeker is referring to another entity. Though, from Lux's level up animation and level 2 card, we know that she eventually overpowers wherever is tormenting her.
Luxana! Soon.
Going back to Lillia, in her level 1 artwork, we can see that she's looking into Lux's dream, and in her level up, we can see that dream getting corrupted. If we slow down, we can see multiple frames of Lux's dream tinted dark and red. Some seem to show the artwork of the Petricide Hall, perhaps in an unfinished state, but some don't match any artwork we've seen. These combine to show Lux facing away from the viewer, in a twisted version of Demacia as dark birds fly above. Then, the level up shows Lillia again, and just like in her level 2, we can see some birds in the background. I haven't mentioned Vex's cards yet. These take place in her dream, where her nightmare is actually just a birthday party. I think the only thing worth mentioning here are the grotesque gift's red eyes and the birds flying above in the background. So, with all these mentions of fear, corruption, nightmares, Demacia, weird voices, red dreams, and dark words, you're probably starting to see the connection to Fiddlesticks. But you might also be wondering, can't this just be Swain? And aren't nightmares Nocturne's sting? And these are some very valid points. Swain has connections to both Demacia and Yone because he's one of the leaders of the Noxian Triferics. In this artwork, released alongside Silas, we can see the schematics for his shackles, as well as Galio and Rom, Swain's demon. This, on top of Swain's quotes, and the fact that the shackles were initially used for demons, makes it clear that, at some point, there were some ideas at Riot to connect all of these pieces, though we've yet to see that come to fruition. And we know that the second invasion of Yone, the one we see in the Awakened cinematic, will happen at some point, as it was teased in the story Sisterhood of War and Perennial. The latter also teased Yone and the Spirit Blossom event back in 2020. So the connection between Noxus and Yone is still very relevant. And with Rom being a demon of secrets, I wouldn't put it past the realm of possibility for it to inflict dark visions based on someone's secretly kept fears or wishes. This corruption being tied to Swain would also explain the birds. However, the Mageseeker's voice does sound closer to what Fiddlesticks sounds in-game. There's nothing to say that this couldn't be ROM or tied to ROM, but I think the voiceover was delivered in this way specifically to remind us of Fiddlesticks.
Little light, big dark.
Little light, little light.
As for Nocturne, yes, he is much more associated with nightmares. In fact, most of what I mentioned in this video matches Nocturne's theme very well, from the parallel of dreams and nightmares to the reference to darkness and even the Mageseeker's voiceover. The Mageseeker sounds much more self-aware and sentient, like Nocturne, as opposed to the more animalistic Fiddlesticks, and this whole scheme does seem much more up Nocturne's alley, as he did something similar in the story for Demacia. Speaking of the story, it directly ties Nocturne to Demacia. As for Yone, Nocturne is a nightmare demon, so the dream connection is loose, but still there, much more than with Fiddle, at least thematically. Not to mention that Nocturne has been active in other regions outside of Demacia. This year, the team also introduced new adventures called Weekly Nightmares, which also fit Nocturne, but one of them is called Fear Portal, which could be teasing Fiddlesticks. Fiddlesticks is a much more powerful demon than Nocturne. I wouldn't say it would be impossible for him to corrupt dreams as well. If the Mageseeker does refer to another entity, that could mean that he is still the dream version of a Mageseeker from Lux's dream, corrupted by Fiddlesticks. And the emphasis on darkness could just be tied to Lux's fears in general and not actually to Nocturne. Again, Nocturne would make so much sense here, but the thing that really throws me off are all the birds, as well as the quote about black feathers. And well, we know that the upcoming champion is a brand new one to the game, so it being Nocturne 2.0 doesn't make sense. Moving on, another piece of the puzzle is the card Still Gale, with the artwork, name and effect all being tied to Yone, perhaps teasing that he was also meant to join the game as well. Yone and Lillia were worked on and released around the same time in League of Legends. Both of their stories are somewhat connected, though not directly, and some of their quotes imply they've met at some point. Yone is also heavily tied to demons, as he is currently bound to an Azakana. It was also during Yone's release that we even learned what Azakanas were, as previously the word was only used in this artwork released alongside Fiddlesticks. So, to release both Fiddlesticks and Yone together or around the same time in Legends of Runeterra would have made a lot of sense. Now shifting from lore to even more nerdy stuff, there are a lot of champions that were released in Wild Rift, and less than a year later they were released in Legends of Runeterra, or vice versa. Sometimes it's tied to events, like Jace for Arcane, Action for Sentinels of Light, or Aatrox for the Darkin events, but this isn't always the case, as we saw with Volibear, Nilla and Vex. Fiddlesticks and Yone were both released in Wild Rift less than 2 years ago. This is obviously not undeniable proof that they were coming to LOR, but it's something to keep in mind. On another note, when a new voiceover is released for a champion for one game, a new League of Legends skin for example, we sometimes see new voiceover for them in another game. For example, Legends of Runeterra. Samira got an ultimate skin in League shortly after being released in LOR, same thing happened with Sett and Kayn. Varus and Nidalee got a voice update in League around the same time they were released in LOR, you get the drill. And Yone's voice actor has been doing a lot of work for the character, with the most recent examples being a legendary skin in League and an ultimate skin in Wild Rift, which means that he could have recorded lines for both of these skins and for Yone in LOR around the same time. And now, one final note. In the game conversions, we got a note referencing another of the 10 primordial demons. These notes are usually written by various writers, including some who worked on LOR, hence why a lot of notes mention followers from the game. So it's possible that this was teasing a new follower or card that might have been planned to come out alongside Fiddlesticks. And there you have it. All of this evidence makes me believe that Fiddlesticks was, at some point, planned to be released in Legends of Runeterra before the shift to PvE, and that maybe, just maybe, he's joining the game next month. Right on time for the Halloween update, huh? But what do you think? Do you believe that Fiddlesticks might actually be joining the game soon? Or do you think Yone is much more likely? Or are you just expecting Arcane characters and that's it? Let me know down below. I'm trying to reach 3k subs by the end of this year, so if you subscribed, I would really appreciate it. It's free and you can always change your mind later. With this being said, I'll see you guys in the next video.